Chapter 371. Marina responded, I called for the doctor and nurses as soon as possible. I went to the toilet, because I had an upset stomach. I came here as soon as I was out of the toilet. How is she doing? Chris looked at her for a while and shook his head. It's not looking good. Don't worry, Dad. Miss Parker will surely get better. I've been reflecting on my actions these 2 days. I used to hate her because I thought she was only pretending to like me. But I've realized that she really loves me. I feel guilty for treating her so badly. I'll never make her angry again when she recovers. Chris hugged her after she said that. Your mother will be fine. We'll get through this as a family. That's right. Olivia felt mixed emotions as she looked at them. Marina had abused her a lot, after all. There was still a blood feud between them. Olivia really couldn't bear seeing Marina in such a loving situation. She looked away but noticed that Marina's hands were clutching the hem of her clothes tightly. Any normal person would hug their father back in a situation like this. But Olivia could see complicated emotions on Marina's face. It looked like she was nervous, guilty, and afraid. After a while, Chloe was pushed out of the emergency room. But this time, she remained unconscious. Chris approached the doctor in a hurry and asked, How's my wife doing, doctor? The doctor removed his face mask, saying, It's not looking good. Her life is not in danger, but she has gone into a coma. We'll send her to the ICU for examination. There's only one last option left for Mrs. Carlton. That's to do the bone marrow transplant as soon as possible, or else. The doctor looked at Chris and gave him the final deadline. She might not last until the end of the month. Chris took 2 steps back like he had been dealt a massive blow. How could this be? Mrs. Carlton's condition suddenly worsened twice. These incidents have greatly shortened her life. Mr. Carlton, if a compatible bone marrow still can't be found, you'll have to be ready for the worst. Chris was dumbfounded. For once, Marina was staying at his side. Olivia felt like she didn't belong there, so she left quietly. She found Kelvin and told him, Go check if anyone other than Marina entered my mom's ward. Okay, Mrs. Miller, why don't I send you home first? You've been helping out all night. Olivia knew she wouldn't be able to see Chloe in the ICU, so she went home. If the mastermind orchestrated this incident, there would be some contradictions to Olivia's predictions. If Leia's target was her, why would she hurt Chloe? The mystery that she thought she was close to solving became shrouded in mist again. Olivia sighed deeply and thought about Chloe, who was on the verge of death. She started to feel sad. Olivia opened the door and noticed that Ethan was actually home. He was wearing an apron and holding a spatula. Looking at her, he said, You're back. Ethan noticed that Olivia was not in a good mood. He turned off the stove and approached her. Hugging her, he said, I've heard about it. Don't be sad. I've cooked some chicken soup just for you. His embrace was familiar to her. But there was the smell of oil and smoke on his body. It made him feel more human. Olivia didn't know if she was too tired or Ethan's embrace was too warm. But she didn't move away and allowed him to keep hugging her. I bought my mom's favorite matzo ball soup for her, but she won't get the chance to eat it anymore. Patting her head, Ethan said gently, the gesture alone would make her very happy. I suspect that her worsening condition isn't a coincidence. Someone must have caused it. Olivia broke free from his embrace and looked at him. It's very likely that Marina is the one who did it. Not many people could get into Chloe's ward. Also, she had been away for so many years and had no friends in the city. As soon as Marina came to visit, something happened to Chloe. Also, Marina was acting very suspiciously at the hospital. It's okay. Don't overthink it. I'll handle it, Ethan said as his expression remained the same. Chapter 372. Ethan didn't speak, but his expression said it all. He didn't want to discuss this subject with Olivia. Liv, I have my considerations. There were things that Ethan couldn't tell Olivia. Smiling coldly, Olivia said, She indirectly killed our baby, pushed me into depression for 2 years, and now she's trying to kill my mother. I'm really curious as to why you're so lenient with her. If he truly loved Marina, why would he go to such lengths to win her favor? Ethan would never have stooped to doing such things. Olivia was confused. Some things are not the way you think they are. I'll tell you everything when the time is right. It was always about timing with Ethan. Olivia didn't know when the time would be right. She only knew that the conflicts she had been forced into had caused her family to be ruined. Rest here for a while. I'll get you some soup. Ethan hurried to the kitchen. He was intent on avoiding that subject. He opened the pot, and the fragrant smell of the soup wafted in the kitchen. He stirred the soup gently with a wooden ladle. Ethan's phone vibrated, and he picked it up. It was a call from Brent. "Mr. Miller, I've looked into it. Mrs. Miller did save Avery Fordham before. But all she did was bring him to the emergency room. She left after paying the bill. There was no other interaction between them." A stormy expression appeared on Ethan's face. He asked in an irritated tone, "What about Avery's side of things?" "I'm not so sure right now, but it doesn't seem like he's here on business. This might be a personal trip. I was also able to get my hands on his medical report." "What illness does he have?" Brent said slowly. "Kidney failure." "Understood. Get someone to keep an eye on him." "Yes, sir." And Ethan suddenly lowered his voice and glanced at the door. He saw that Olivia was heading upstairs and asked, "How's the investigation on Toxic Hive going?" "There haven't been any developments yet. It seems like someone is protecting them. I haven't been able to find anything. Keep the investigation going." "Understood." Ethan hung up, thinking about the woman he grabbed that night. He was almost entirely sure that she was Leia. He felt conflicted. The sister he missed for so many years was still alive. He should be overjoyed. However, not only did Leia join a terrorist organization and kill innocent people, but the most important thing was that she hurt the woman he loved. Ethan didn't know how he would feel when he faced his sister. He was deep in thought and accidentally spilled some of the scalding hot soup on his hand. He immediately came back to his senses. While waiting for the soup to cool down, Ethan called Kelvin. "How's the investigation at the hospital?" Miss Carlton was the only one that went into Mrs. Carlton's ward other than the usual caregiver and medical staff. "There aren't any cameras in the ward, so no one knows what happened in there." "Did they perform any other checks? Could someone has used drugs? How else could her condition worsen so abruptly?" "Currently, Mrs. Carlton has been resuscitated and sent to the ICU for observation. A blood test was done. There are no issues." Hanging up, Ethan played with the ladle. His expression grew gloomier. Toxic Hive was like its name suggested. They were insects that would infiltrate everywhere. Ethan had no idea who they had bribed to provide them protection. Even his men were unable to uncover any leads. Toxic Hive was second to none when it came to drugs. Ethan thought about it for a while and decided to call Marina. On the other end of the phone, Marina didn't seem surprised. Instead, she was a little distracted. "Hi, Ethan." Marina sounded tired. "We haven't eaten together for some time. Why don't we meet up tonight?" Ethan asked. In the past, Marina would be delighted to receive an invitation from Ethan. But she was reluctant this time. Miss Parker is in the ICU. I need to be at the hospital in case anything happens." Ethan grabbed the ladle tightly. There was a hint of determination on his face. "Other than having dinner, I also want to talk to you about our marriage." Marriage. Marina was so happy she could faint. The incident during the engagement party became public knowledge. Miller Group's stocks have become unstable because of it. "That's why I want to discuss our marriage with you." Ethan knew that their marriage was the one thing Marina cared about the most. It was the best bait to lure her out. "Okay, I'll be there." Chapter 373. Ethan gave Kelvin some instructions. Then, he went upstairs with the cooled soup in his hands. Sounds of washing up could be heard from the bathroom. Soon, Olivia emerged with droplets of water clinging to her. As soon as she opened the door, she saw Ethan. Their gazes met. She hadn't dried her hair, so it hung in wet clumps. Her fair face was cold and stern. Her slender collarbones were exposed above the casual clothes she was wearing. Ethan discreetly looked away. He gulped a little. When he saw Olivia like that, he was reminded of that enchanting dream. Even the touch of her skin felt too real. It was so real that he could still remember Olivia's warmth and her heart-racing sounds. The soup is ready. Try it and see if there are any changes. Olivia had been bustling about all morning, so she didn't get to have any soup. Her stomach was already hurting long ago. When Chris took her away from the island, she left in a hurry. She didn't even bring her medicine. She had enough doses for a whole month. She had taken the medicine for 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, her stomach never hurt. She no longer spat out blood as well. Colin emphasized that she shouldn't stop taking the medicine. She had to take it regularly. But after she came back, she tried calling him to no avail. As a result of her stopping the medicine, her stomach began to hurt again. So, she didn't want to torment her body any further. Thank you. Ethan wanted to feed her the soup, but she avoided his hand. The temperature was just right, so she downed it in one go. Ethan grabbed a towel and gently dried her hair with it. His movements were tender, as if he was handling something fragile. He was careful beyond description. Olivia only found it amusing. Still, she didn't stop him from serving her. After having her fill, she lay on the bed. I'm going to sleep. She wouldn't argue with Ethan anymore, and she didn't reject his kindness. But she also stopped talking to him unless it was necessary. Ethan knew that the gap between them couldn't be resolved with only a simple explanation. He had no choice but to get up and leave. Rest well. Olivia didn't have time to care about his feelings. She had to be nicer to herself, and she would fight to see another day. She was no longer pessimistic. She felt like she was grass growing in the mud. No matter how dire her situation was, she would risk her life to crawl out of the mud and flourish. She didn't know how long she slept, but she was woken up by her phone. She was still in a daze when she woke up. Hello, Chris' hoarse voice spoke. After you left, Chloe's illness got even worse. The doctor has already issued an advance directive. She only has 3 days left at most. Olivia's sleepiness instantly disappeared. She scrambled to get up. Don't panic, Mr. Carlton. I'll be right there. She had finally reconciled with Chloe, and she experienced a mother's love for the first time in her life. But today, she received news that Chloe was going to die. Olivia hurriedly changed her clothes. When she got downstairs, she was told that Ethan had also left not long ago. Olivia didn't care where he went. She asked the driver to take her to the hospital. When she arrived, Chris was sitting alone on the bench. He stared unblinkingly into the distance, his eyes losing focus. Mr. Carlton, Olivia called out softly. Chris' eyes were red. He said weakly, "You're here." Olivia sat down next to him. "How's Mom?" "Many of her organs are failing." Olivia gripped her palm tightly. "How can that be?" Chris looked toward the sky. "I want to ask the same question. Chloe is such a kind woman. Why did she end up like this?" He suddenly thought of something as he continued, "I won't let her die, no matter what it takes." "What are you trying to do, Mr. Carlton?" The determination in Chris' expression looked a little scary. "Olivia, have you heard of an organization that does both good and evil? They can revive the dead. Their medical skills are far superior to the skills of international medical organizations. If I can find them, Chloe will be saved." Chapter 374. Olivia's expression suddenly turned stern at the mention of Toxic Hive. "Mr. Carlton, I'll be honest with you. The ones who kidnapped me last time are related to the Toxic Hive. They're not decent people, I know. I used to hate them to the core. They don't value human lives, but they can bring back the dead. For Chloe's sake, I have no other choice." Olivia didn't know if they were targeting Chloe because of her. But they always had something up their sleeves, so they might have prepared a trap for Chris. "If you go to them, you'll be dealing with the devil." "Olivia, are you just going to sit by and watch as Chloe dies?" If it were last week, she wouldn't have cared if Chloe died. But last night, Chloe had embraced her. Olivia couldn't just watch Chloe die without understanding why. When Olivia came here, Kelvin told her about the investigation results. No one had entered the ward except for Marina. Olivia wondered if Marina would do something so inhumane to her stepmother. She couldn't figure out what Marina was trying to achieve. But those were all Olivia's guesses. She didn't have any real proof. Noticing that Olivia remained silent, Chris patted her on the shoulder. Olivia, I've already made my decision. Olivia watched him leave dejectedly. She felt helplessness spreading throughout her body again. She didn't want it to turn out like this, but she had no power or status. She didn't even know anything about Toxic Hive. She wanted to help Chloe, but it was beyond her means. She didn't know what she should do. She thought of asking Ethan for help, but he was involved with Leia and Marina. Ethan was closely related to those two people, who were on Olivia's blacklist. Olivia didn't trust him. Olivia got up. Her purse fell to the floor, and a name card slid out of the open zipper. She bent down to pick it up, but she stared at the words, Avery Fordham, for a moment. He was the CEO of an international corporation. He must know about Toxic Hive as well. Olivia wondered if she could ask him for help. But they were practically strangers. It might be a little inappropriate for her to ask such things of him. Olivia was troubled. When she looked up, she saw a group of people crying pitifully. They looked like they had just lost a loved one. Gritting her teeth, Olivia dialed the number on the name card. She was expecting the call to be unanswered. After all, Avery was a busy man. It should be difficult to contact him via his work number. Unexpectedly, after about 3 beeps, the man's gentle voice rang out. Hello. Olivia couldn't believe that the call went through. Her heart thumped wildly. A little bewildered, she said, Hello, Mr. Fordham. It's me, I'm sorry for bothering you out of the blue. Olivia. When Avery recognized her voice, he sounded a little happy. Did you encounter some trouble, Miss Fordham? Well, yes. I'm wondering if we can meet up and talk about it. It would be an honor. The two decided on a place. Then, Avery hung up. He tapped lightly on Olivia's documents with his index finger. Beside him, his assistant, Bryce Young, spoke up. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Fordham? Miss Fordham has never gone overseas before, and her looks might be a coincidence. She probably has nothing to do with the Fordhams. Avery sighed as he rubbed between his eyebrows. Never mind, I was overthinking it. Olivia looked exactly like my grandmother when she was young. Many people look alike in this world. It isn't too surprising. Very close the folder. Then, he smoothed his clothes and got up. Get the car. Even if we're OT related by blood, I still want to meet her. Chapter 375. Marina ended her call with Ethan. She was panicking before this, but now, she felt like she was on cloud 9. She was elated that Ethan finally agreed to marry her. This was amazing news to her. Tossing aside the misery in her heart, she changed her clothes and put on makeup. Then, she went out. When she was going out, she received a call. She pleaded in a pitiful tone, I've already done as you said. That woman won't be alive for long. Can't I leave tomorrow? I have an important appointment later. That won't do. Don't forget, your bone marrow matches hers. If they find out about it, she can still be saved. I'll send someone over to pick you up. You should hide for 3 days. She will be dead in 3 days at most. Marina felt a little annoyed. Fine, then, I'll leave right after this meal. With that, she hung up. She thought that delaying it a little should be fine. Getting into the car, she watched as the scenery quickly passed by. Marina recalled Chloe's face again. She used to hate Chloe so much, so now that Chloe was finally going to die, she should be happy about it. She produced a small mirror from her pocket to fix her makeup. When she touched the card Chloe gave her, she stared at it for a moment. Chloe said that the password was her birthday. But after so many years, Marina didn't even know when Chloe's birthday was. Marina began to wonder if Chloe truly deserved to die. Marina's heart was troubled again. When Ethan sent her a message asking her where she was, she finally recovered her mood. She hastily sent him her location. She started a voice message. Ethan, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Wait, the voice message was abruptly cut off. A loud crash could be heard in the last 30 seconds. When Ethan heard that, he knew that something had happened. He tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. Change the route. Something happened to Marina. A large truck had rammed into Marina's car from the opposite road, sending it flying. Marina's car landed on a tree by the road. The dust on the road was kicked up. The people nearby screamed as they hastily dialed 911. The driver died on the spot. Marina was in the back seat, but she was also seriously injured. She felt pain all over her body. She saw crimson blood streaming out of her body, but her mind was stunned. Her phone vibrated continuously. A shard of glass had pierced through her chest. With all her might, Marina grabbed her phone and answered the call. She was in so much pain that she couldn't form a whole sentence. She heard Ethan's voice. "What happened? Ethan, save me." Marina's voice was extremely weak. Ethan hastily said, "What's going on right now? Did you get into an accident? Were you hurt? Where were you hurt? Do you have anyone with you? Don't move recklessly in case your insides get ruptured, all right?" Marina replied, "My chest, glass." Before she could speak a complete sentence, the car door was pulled open. Marina looked at the person. The man was wearing a black outfit. He wore a cap on his head, and his climbing jacket was zipped right up to his nose. He had sunglasses on, so she couldn't see his features at all. "Miss Carlton, I'm here to pick you up." Marina felt a chill run down her spine. Thoughts raced across her head as she realized that something was off. Marina had insisted on leaving only after her meal with Ethan. But that woman arranged a traffic accident to stop her. She couldn't believe how cruel that woman was. "Who's talking?" Ethan's voice sounded in her ear. "Don't worry, I've promised Kurt to protect you. I'll be there right away." Marina saw the man standing against the light, reaching for her phone. She couldn't stop him at all. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "It's too late. It's all too late now. Ethan, be careful of he." Her voice was abruptly cut off. The call had ended. When Ethan tried calling her again, the call wouldn't go through. He wondered who Marina was warning him about, or who she had provoked. When he arrived, the scene was a chaotic mess. "Mr. Miller, the driver is dead. Miss Carlton is missing." Chapter 376. Marina was quickly transported into a truck. There was professional medical equipment in the truck, and doctors as well. It was like an ambulance. As soon as she got into the truck, someone began treating her. An oxygen mask was placed on her nose, and she took in large gulps of air. She wasn't quite conscious, and her eyes couldn't focus. She could only see a few people tending to her wounds. She had lost a lot of blood, so she knew that she would die for sure. Many memories surfaced in Marina's mind. Her last memories were of Chloe looking weak and powerless, and that day when she pushed Olivia off the ship. She felt like she saw the snow dancing in the air again, and the cold sea breeze blew the snowflakes right at her. The sea was very cold that night. Olivia lost her child because of that. This was probably Marina's punishment for hurting others. But Marina didn't understand why she would do this. The truck stopped moving at an unknown location. Then, the people moved Marina's body out of the truck. Marina still hadn't fainted throughout the ordeal. She knew that she would see that person again. She just wanted to ask that woman why she had to be treated this way. Roses filled Marina's vision. The woman was wearing a black cocktail dress. Her bare legs were crossed. Her skin was fair, and her figure was slender and charming. She had exquisite makeup on her face. She lazily gazed at Marina. Marina was wearing the oxygen mask, and her lips trembled. Her breaths turned into white fog that spread across the mask, and her voice was so small that no one could hear her. Standing up, the woman glided toward her. She didn't look the least bit compassionate when she saw the bloodied Marina. Marina reached out, trying to grab the woman's wrist. But her hand was too weak. The woman curved her lips into a charming smile. "Let me guess. You want to know if I had arranged the traffic accident, right?" Her nails were painted with red polish. Her fingers touched Marina's face. "Yes, it was me. I've already reminded you, but you're the one who disobeyed. Disobedient children should be punished." Marina's eyes widened. She could hardly believe the truth, for it had completely overturned her understanding. Beside her, the man told her about the examination results. She had compound fractures on her body, and the glass on her chest was the most dangerous injury. They had to get the glass out with an operation as soon as possible. The woman waved her hand. "Take it out, then. No need for anesthetics." She should watch it with her own eyes. Marina raised her hand to express her dissatisfaction. The woman sneered. Are you curious why I would treat you like this? That's because. The woman leaned in and whispered in Marina's ear. Marina's expression shifted. She reached out to take off her oxygen mask, and her fingers touched the glass in her chest. She looked like she wanted to pull it out to kill both the woman and herself. But she had no energy, so she couldn't do anything. The woman looked quite pleased. Enjoy what it feels like to wish you were dead. Marina was taken away. The woman even told them, you don't have to be too nice to her. Just make sure she's still alive. Understood. The woman casually picked a random rose that was blooming vibrantly. Holding it to her nose, she took in its scent. What a wonderful day. Young woman walked out of the shadows. She was wearing a white dress, and she had long flowing hair. Her face was pretty and exquisite. Her eyes were identical to Ethan's. He walked out from among the roses. She was so beautiful that she looked like she had walked out of a painting. Topping before the woman, she said in a respectful tone, Madam, we just received the news. Head of the Carltons, Chris Carlton, wants to see you. Chris, huh? The woman smiled. Sure. Arrange a time for me. The young lady was a little stunned. She didn't expect the woman to agree so readily. The woman seemed to be in a good mood. She let go of the rose. The petals flew in the air as she stepped mercilessly on it. Understood. The woman patted her on the shoulder. Remember this, Leia. Once you walk down this path, you won't have the chance to turn back anymore. Even your brother will be no more than a stranger to the likes of us. The young lady lowered her gaze, her long eyelashes hiding the shadow in her eyes. Like a puppet void of expression, she said, I understand. Chapter 377. Olivia had arrived at the cafe early on. After learning about Avery's identity, she felt a little nervous. The Fordhams were only a middle-class family in Aldenvine before they went bankrupt. But Avery owned a huge corporation that was internationally famous. He usually met either high-ranking government officials or influential leaders in the industry. When Avery opened the door and walked in, Olivia stood up. She looked nervous as she said, Hello, Mr. Fordham. In their past 2 meetings, Avery had been in a rush. Avery wasn't sure if it was because of her looks, but he felt a sense of familiarity around her. You don't have to be so formal, Miss Fordham. Have a seat. The two sat down opposite each other. Olivia clasped her hands together as she spoke in a trembling voice. Pardon me, Mr. Fordham, but I have something to ask of you. Please don't say that, Miss Fordham. You saved my life. It doesn't matter what sort of help you want me to provide. You can just tell me. Avery had an earnest look on his face. Olivia knew that he must sincerely wish to thank her. Otherwise, he would have settled it by giving her money. Time is of the essence, so I won't beat around the bush. Mr. Fordham, how much do you know about Toxic Hive? Avery took a few sips of the lemonade. Setting down the glass, he had a serene look on his face. I may know more about them than the average person. Miss Fordham, tell me what you want me to do. As long as it's something I can do, I won't decline. Olivia replied, I was kidnapped by people from Toxic Hive some time ago, and I almost died. Their people targeted me on various occasions. Not only that, but my mother was diagnosed with leukemia. We still haven't found a matching bone marrow donor for her. She wasn't supposed to be in the advanced stage. But her condition suddenly worsened this morning. The doctor has already issued an advance directive. Olivia spoke quickly. She didn't hide anything from this stranger that she had only met for the 3rd time. I'm suspecting that Toxic Hive did something to her. That's why she worsened ahead of time. Now, to save my mother's life, my stepfather is going to make a trade with Toxic Hive. I fear that they may already have a trap in place. Olivia looked helpless. I'm sorry for asking you to do something like this even though we just got to know each other, Mr. Fordham. But I have no other choice. 6 months ago, my father got into an accident. Now, my mother only has a few dozen hours left. I only dared to ask you for help after learning about your identity. Avery said, Please don't say that, Miss Fordham. I wouldn't just sit by and watch even if it's solely because we share the same last name. I can do something about Toxic Hive, but what do you want me to do? Olivia's mind was in a mess. I want to save my mother's life, but I don't trust Toxic Hive. There's a deep grudge between me and Toxic Hive. To be honest, I don't know what to do. She spoke at a slow pace. If possible, I want to find the person who keeps trying to kill me. But she has gone into hiding these days, so I can't find her anywhere. With that, Olivia seemed a little regretful. She thought that she sounded a little pathetic for telling a stranger about this. She didn't know what came over her. She felt very reassured when she met Avery. Before she knew it, she had already told him everything on her mind. Avery rubbed his fingers against the smooth glass. Calm down. I'll think of a way to help you figure out who tried to kidnap and kill you. As for your mother, I'll send people to ask around in Toxic Hive. I'll try to make sure that your stepfather won't be harmed. Is that okay? Olivia nodded. Do you have a way, Mr. Fordham? Seeing her gleaming eyes, Avery had the urge to get her even the stars in the sky. Yes, I have some connections. I'm glad that I can help you too. It's getting late, so to order something to eat. You need to eat to get energy. I'll go out and make a call. Olivia nodded. Watching the man leave elegantly, she felt much more secure now. Avery walked to a deserted corridor, his assistant following right after him. He had a dark look in his eyes. The gentleness he had when he was with Olivia was gone. 2 things. 1. Find the person who tried to kill Miss Fordham. 2. Protect Chris. Bryce nodded. Understood, Mr. Fordham. After thinking for a moment, Bryce added, Mr. Fordham, why are you so nice to Miss? Chapter 378. Avery returned to the private room with a faint smile on his lips. Sorry for the wait. I've already sent someone to deal with your problems. Don't worry. The man looked a little pale. When he smiled, there was a tiny dimple on his left cheek. He looked much friendlier now. Thank you so much. Mr. Fordham, you don't look too well. Why don't you get treated at the hospital? It'd be dangerous if you fainted again like you did last time. It's an old issue. It's nothing too serious. The waiter came over with their food. Olivia smiled at Avery. I ordered some food. I don't know if you'd like what I ordered, though. Avery had maintained this amicable air about him. So, Olivia didn't feel as nervous as she did at the beginning. As they dined, Olivia was surprised to find that her tastes were like Avery's. They dropped slightly more of the formalities from before. Avery gazed at her with a gentle look in his eyes. I think of my sister when I see you. She's about the same age as you. Your sister must be very pretty. At the mention of his sister, Avery's eyes lit up. Yes, she's very pretty. She was the apple of everyone's eye since young. We pampered her to no end. But then, with that, the light suddenly went out of Avery's eyes. Olivia hastily asked, did something happen to her? That troublesome child went missing. I came here to look for her. I received news that she had entered this country. Is she still in Aldenvine? I'm not sure. The only thing I know for sure is that she came here. She might have hidden her tracks to prevent us from locating her. So, even after arriving here, I still haven't found her. No wonder you fainted by the road that day. Was it because you were looking for Miss Fordham? Avery nodded. Yes. He pulled up a photo on his phone. This is my sister. I will be leaving Aldenvine soon. If you find any clues, please inform me. The woman in the photos was wearing a black outfit as she leaned against a black motorcycle. She looked cool and wild. Miss Fordham has quite the personality. I thought that people from great families like yours would always be elegant. I never expected her to be this cool. Ah, yes. At the mention of his sister, Avery added, Quinn was quite docile when she was young. But then, she somehow started rebelling. She refused to study, and she would either chase after celebrities or race on the streets. We're very concerned about her. Last year, she got herself a boyfriend, and she insisted on getting married to him. She's already of marriageable age, but she's the treasured daughter of the Fordhams, after all. It's not that we only accept wealthy candidates. However, the man had a less than satisfying background. He also has a history of domestic violence and being generally unkind to women. He also didn't seem like the ambitious type. Miss Fordham, if it were you, would you let your sister get married to someone like him? Olivia shook her head. Marriage is different from dating. It's a woman's second chance to change her life. If she chooses the wrong person, she will fall from heaven right into hell. I can see that Miss Fordham was taking the plunge without thinking about it. Olivia knew this all too well. Ethan had an amazing background, but in the end, he left her with nothing but wounds and scars. Yes, we just want Quinn to marry someone reliable, and someone who'd sincerely treat her well. But no matter how you look at that man, he didn't fulfill those requirements. Olivia had more or less guessed what happened. After your family objected to it, did Miss Fordham run away with this man? Avery frowned deeply. Yes. For the past 6 months, the man had convinced her to stand up against her family. She thought that we wanted to marry her off so that the family's status could be secured. I'm not boasting here, but there aren't many families in this world that could rival ours. We're not in any financial crisis, either, so why would we form a marriage alliance? Even if we did want to arrange a marriage, she has 4 older brothers. We would be the ones getting an arranged marriage instead. We can't possibly sacrifice the future of our sister, who we pampered and loved since young. Chapter 379. Olivia could imagine how much the Fordhams loved Quinn. She was also amazed at how rich they were. She couldn't imagine just grabbing $1 billion and running away. So she never contacted you? No, she blocked us before she left. We couldn't contact her at all. What about the money? She'll have to spend some money at least, right? Can't you figure out where she is based on the sources of her expenditure? Avery shook his head. I wish we could. 2 months ago, she caused quite a lot of damage to the house. When she left, the whole family was cleaning up after her. We feared that she would do something even worse if we cornered her. So, we decided to let her leave for now. We hoped that she would choose to come home after realizing how dark things could be outside. But we didn't expect her to hide her traces. She also began laundering the money quickly. She transferred the $1 billion out of her account. When we realized that something was wrong, she had already arrived in Aldenvine. Her account was empty, so we couldn't locate her based on her expenditure. The more Olivia heard, the more suspicious it sounded to her. Mr. Fordham, this doesn't sound like eloping. It feels more like it was planned ahead of time. If they could launder the money in such a short time, they must have a professional team behind the scenes. They could even avoid getting tracked by your family. Do you think Miss Fordham was scammed? Avery agreed. We thought the same as well. We went to look for the man's family, but we realized that his nationality and identity were all faked. No one knew who he truly was. My family has been searching for a whole month. I especially came to Aldenvine because she said that she loved this country and wanted to live here. I've been here for a week, but I haven't heard any news about her. Avery sighed heavily. We're all very anxious these days. We just want to find Quinn as soon as possible. That child. The phone on the desk started vibrating. Giving Olivia an apologetic look, he answered the call. Hello. His voice was gentle. A charming female voice sounded from the other end of the line. Have you found Quinn, Avery? Avery answered honestly. I haven't gotten any news so far. She might have left Aldenvine already. Take care, Avery. Don't miss your dialysis appointment. You're all alone outside, and I'm worried about you. Silly child, I'm fine. Just stay home and take good care of Dad and Mom. I'll bring Quinn back. Okay, then I won't bother you anymore, Avery. The call ended. Avery said, that was the 6th child of our family, Sia. Unlike Quinn, she's gentle and obedient. Olivia noticed the tenderness in his gaze. She couldn't help but exclaim, you have quite the lively family, Mr. Fordham. Yes, my parents have always been close to each other. After Sia was born, my mother's health declined. It was only then that she stopped giving birth. Avery remembered what he read from Olivia's documents. Her parents divorced early on, and she had been living in a single-parent household all this while. Her father got into an accident 2 years ago, and she got divorced 6 months ago. He could see that her life was quite tough as well. Would you like something more to eat? Avery asked gently. Olivia shook her head. It's okay, I'm quite full. Thank you, Mr. Fordham. Thinking of something, Olivia returned to the topic. Mr. Fordham, can I ask a few more questions about Toxic Hive? I heard that they did a lot of experiments in various countries, and they hurt a lot of people. Is that true? Avery took a sip of the lemonade. Yes, but no one probably told you about Toxic Hive's previous form. Olivia was a little surprised. Toxic Hive's previous form? Avery touched the glass in his hand. There was a deep look in his eyes, which Olivia couldn't understand. Everything in this world has two sides. Nothing is entirely good, nor is there anything wholly bad. Chapter 380. Seeing that there was no one around them, Avery revealed the truth. In reality, the medical organization that was first established was called Peace's Embrace. The name signified their wish for everything in the world to be embraced by peace. At first, this organization was established for research that would benefit humanity. It invited top scholars and specialists from various countries. This was so that they could focus on illnesses that humanity couldn't cure. Examples would be cancer, AIDS, leukemia, rabies, and other diseases caused by viruses. But gradually, there was a disagreement within the organization. Olivia asked, what disagreement? Some experiments were inhumane. Experiments usually need clinical trials. It wasn't something you could achieve with the loss of 1 or 2 human lives. They hired anyone willing at a high price. Those volunteers would sign the death waiver of their own accord. But not everyone was willing to do that. Since they lacked subjects, they would have to get more via special methods. With that, Avery glanced at Olivia. You know about organizations that profit by illegally selling humans as goods, right? They don't care about their consciences at all. People who were bought through those channels usually had a strong desire to live. That's when the disagreement happened. Some people thought that it was inhumane to conduct experiments on people who wanted to live. It was no different from killing them. The others only wanted good results. They thought that it would be worth sacrificing the lives of a few to save even more. Hence, after a huge argument, a part of the organization left with the extremists. Then, they established the organization known as Toxic Hive. Toxic Hive and Peace's Embrace are like the sun and the moon. They had different methods of doing things. In the end, things went out of hand, and Toxic Hive didn't care about human lives anymore. When Olivia heard that, she felt emotional. I didn't know it had such a history. According to what I know, Toxic Hive has connections with officials in many countries. But your country has always strictly prohibited them. Toxic Hive can't officially build their nest here, so they would do it in secret at most. As soon as they were found out, they would be rooted on the spot. So, only a minor branch of Toxic Hive is stationed here. Its roots are also quite shallow, so there's nothing to be afraid of. Avery reached up to pat Olivia on the head, but he stopped himself in time. He was too used to comforting his sisters at home. Don't worry, I'll help you. Olivia chatted with him for a while until Kelvin knocked on the door. Mrs. Miller, Mr. Miller is waiting for you at home. Olivia gave Avery an apologetic glance. I have to go. Okay. They exchanged contact information. Avery said gently, I'll contact you as soon as I get information. Thank you. Olivia followed Kelvin into the car. Kelvin's expression didn't look too good. Mrs. Miller, do you know his identity? Yes, I do. He's a prominent figure, but he invited only you for a meal. I think he has ulterior motives. Olivia was feeling frustrated with everything going on at that moment. So, she didn't react too well either. What's the matter? Do I not have the freedom to dine with someone of the opposite sex now? I don't mean it like that. I just worry that you might be in danger. Toxic Hive is still out and about, but Mr. Fordham asked to meet you for no reason. I was just worried. You still don't know what happened to Miss Carlton, right? The topic suddenly changed. Olivia looked at him. What happened to Marina? Mr. Miller wanted to meet up with her to ask about some things. But on her way here, she met with an accident. The driver died on the spot, and she was taken away. It was Olivia's turn to be surprised. Was it a serious accident? Judging from the traces at the scene, it was very serious. There was a lot of blood in the back seat. Even if Miss Carleton didn't die, she won't be alive for long.